Hello mga ka-Crimnos! Andito na naman tayo sa ating part 3, discussion of the police intelligence and secret services. So this is our third scope about intelligence and its perspective that we are going to tackle about the intelligence objectives, the functions of the intelligence and intelligence principles. So there will be a part 3-B of the discussion of this third scope. So yung ginawa natin is pinutol natin kasi napakahaba. So since the types of the intelligence and the evaluation guide of the intelligence takes too long in terms of presentation. So, yung ginawa natin is we've cut it out. So, in the intelligence perspective, we are going to discuss more on its objectives, the very purpose or importance of intelligence objectives, and of course, the functions of the intelligence as to its usage. And other than that, we are also going to tackle about the intelligence principles as we mentioned it from the previous part of the presentation, which is the part 2 of police intelligence and secret services discussion. So in intelligence principle, this is very important since we will be able to utilize them as to its usage on the immediate time and or in the future time, and of course as to its usefulness, interdependence, objectivity, and in terms of security. So more things to discuss about principles of intelligence or intelligence principle. So let's move on to the next slide. And now our next scope of the discussion will be all about intelligence and its perspective. First, we're going to discuss intelligence objective, the functions of intelligence, the principles of intelligence. These are very important in order to understand this essence of the intelligence, the types of intelligence, the classification of counterintelligence. This is counterintelligence, not intelligence. Evaluation guide, the interpretation of the data, and of course the most important is the intelligence cycle. Oy, drill muna tayo. This refers to knowledge of an event or circumstances that could be imparted and which the capacity for understanding and for other forms of adaptive intellect or behavior is obtained. Answer? Of course, the answer is intelligence. Now, we are here in the aspect of objective of intelligence. Question, what is the objective of intelligence? And why do you think the answer that I will give to you now is the objective of intelligence? Now, the objective of the intelligence is to ensure rational and timely decision making. Why is that? To ensure rational decision making. When we say rational decision making, the intelligence that had been gathered must in conformity as to the current situation and will be used as to what is being required for the crime that has been investigated and or discovered. Since it requires rational decision making, the intelligence or the information that had been gathered must automatically and directly communicated to the decision maker, and that is for the purpose of the decision maker for the plowing of means of information, or shall we say the selection of the information, and of course that is for the purpose of providing it with the exact time. And second one is to ensure timely decision making. So talking about ensures timely decision making, intelligence is timely bounded or time bounded, meaning to say it has a deadline when should it be done as to evaluation in terms of processing and analysis for the purpose of dissemination. Meaning to say, if the intelligence will be provided too soon or too early, the intelligence becomes useless. Because unang-una, okay, the intelligence too soon or too early being provided could not be used as to what is required for the operation, since it is premature to be used. Second, if the intelligence will be produced too late, absolutely that will become useless still. Because unang-una, unless otherwise, the intelligence is required in the nature of strategic, di ba? When we say strategic intelligence, that could be used in the near future because that requires ample time in order to prepare. So since intelligence requires exact time when it will be used, when it will be released, and when it should not be given early and which should not it be given too late. Okay, so that is why the objective of the intelligence must be to ensure rational and timely decision making. Kasi yung intelligence must be communicated to the decision maker for the proper disposition, and it must be time bounded for the proper usage of the intelligence. Now let's proceed to the functions of intelligence. So functions of intelligence in general. So today, all countries have their intelligence services. Of course, they may be different in their organization, vary in efficiency and method, but they all have the basic functions. So meaning to say, in a particular country, they have this particular form of organization, the efficiency and the methods of intelligence services, and that somehow vary with what are the organization, the efficiency and methods of intelligent function or services with the other countries. So the following are the basic functions of the intelligence in general. First, the collection or procurement of information. Meaning to say, the intelligence function is more on collection or procurement and or gathering of information. So it is not part of the agent to apprehend such person whenever the person violated of some laws of the land. But if the one who conduct an operation is a law enforcement officer and the person who committed that crime where you have subject that person under surveillance, you can actually arrest the person if you caught him or her on actual. But the agent working out gathering of information but not a law enforcement officer is not subject to apprehend or arrest the person. The second one, the evaluation of the information which then become intelligence. So why the information needs to be evaluated? Sabi dito, the evaluation of information which then become intelligence. Ibig sabihin, yung information is hindi pa intelligence. Anong difference ng dalawa? Pag sinabi nating information, yung information is raw data, unprocessed, unevaluated data. Whenever the information will be processed or will be evaluated, then that will become intelligence. Meaning to say, yung intelligence is in a form of information actually, in a form of data, but already in different manner, different perspective, or different nature as to its usage. Kasi unang-una, pag sinabi mong information, it might be involved with a bulk of information or data, with all the various data that you've gathered from different sources of information. But in the intelligence, it is now being evaluated and processed from the information that it has something value within it to be used in the operation to be done. So meaning to say, Intelligence, it is the product of processing and evaluation of the information that will become useful later on a particular operation of a law enforcement or even by the agent. To continue, the third is the dissemination of intelligence to those who need it. By disseminating the intelligence, it is not by rank and or position whenever an agent is about to disseminate the intelligence. But it is all about, it matters with whom you are directed to disclose or to give the intelligence. Because what is being required here is the need to know principle. Quote and quote, need to know principle. Ano yung need to know principle? You are not subject to report to the person by means of rank and or position, but you are actually directed to report to the person or authority whom you are directed to disclose such information. Like for example, yes, the person who called you out is the director of the organization, but according to the agent handler, you are not directed to disclose the information to your director, because as such that might be compromise, because the director of the organization is not one of the person in authority to be disclosed with the information. That depends with the direction given to you, because most of the time the information that you've gathered needs to be disseminated to the director of the organization if that is in conformity with the function of the director. But if the information being gathered not in conformity with the function and or job of the director, you should not disclose that. It should only be disclosed to the person or authority whom you are directed with. Okay. The fourth one, counterintelligence or negative intelligence, which is dedicated to the concealment and protection of one's own information from the adversary intelligence operation. It is a defensive function of intelligence. So, counterintelligence or negative intelligence is very important in the world of intelligence. Why? Sabi dito sa last, it is defensive function of intelligence. Pag sinabing defensive function of intelligence, meron tayong two forms. Meron tayong two measures of intelligence. Yun yung active at saka yung passive. Saan doon ang defensive function? Ang defensive function doon ay passive measure. Yung passive measure, it is a measure wherein it tries to block and impede enemy's effort to access the information. So, meaning to say, it does not engage in actual operation, but they are more on the defensive stat in order to protect their information and or assets be accessed by the subversive organization or by the subversive individual. So these are the functions of the intelligence. Our next topic will be intelligence principles. First, in the intelligence principle, we have objectivity. In intelligence, only the well-guided succeed. Meaning to say, if you have goal, if you have plan, you need to set your objective. What would be your objective in order for you to reach your goal? So it is a basic intelligence concept that there must be unity between knowledge and action. Yes, you have knowledge about your subject, about your target. You have gathered with all the information, but you need to act in accordance to what is or what are the information that you have gathered. Because unang-una, your plan is to gather information in order to aid your operation. But you did not set your objective of what should be accomplished on that day. You did not set your objective of what would be the things that you are needed in order for you to accomplish things, for you able to reach your goal. So that is your objectivity or the objective. The second one, interdependence. In the very concept of the interdependence,
It tries to eliminate the duplication of work and to reduce the overall task or manageable sizes. Meaning to say, it is more on dividing of workloads, delegation of workloads from one another to the another one, because you as the agent handler or an officer for that matter, you need not to give a certain task to one person with all the data, with all the information that needed to be provided. As much as possible under the interdependence, it tries to divide the work. Like for example, in the written paper, you are going to research for the introduction, research for the body, and you will be for the conclusion. In the perspective of the intelligence, like for example, you will be given, oh, ikaw, Agent 1, hanapin mo yung educational background niya. Ikaw, Agent 2, hanapin mo yung family background niya. You, Agent 3, you are going to search for the employment background of a person, and you, Agent 4, you are going to search for the ethnic background of this particular subject. With all the tasks that you have given from to Agent 1 up to Agent 4, with the information that they have gathered, all in all, that will be collated or that will be integrated, and it will form as a whole information pertaining to a certain subject or certain individual. Okay, next, we have continuity. Intelligence must be continuous. Meaning to say, the intelligence or the information which then become intelligence must be continuous, must not only be used today. It must be used tomorrow, or it could be used in the near future. Sabi dito, it is necessary that the coverage be continuous so that the shape of what happens today could be studied in the light of what happened before, which in turn would enable us to predict the shape of things to come. Meaning to say, the intelligence that you have been gathered as evaluated and processed could be used today. So, you are not only going to focus as to the intelligence that you've possessed today, because you also need going back to what was happened before in order for you to connect the happenings and or the event of what has happened today. So just because of what was happened today and it was being enlightened of what was happened before, which it could be used of what are the things that will happen in the near future. So meaning to say, you can now predict yung continuity ng intelligence does not only end on the particular day, does not only end up on that particular day. It must be continuous. The intelligence must not only be used today, but it could also be used tomorrow or could also be used in the near future. Yun yung continuity as the principle of intelligence. The fourth one is communication. The intelligence adequate to their needs must be communicated to all decision makers in manner that they will understand and form that will permit its most effective use. As a principle of intelligence, communication plays a vital role here, since from the time that the data has been gathered, it must be then communicated right away to the decision makers. No other than it should be given to the decision makers in order the decision makers to evaluate, process, and analyze what type of information that you have gathered, what is the manner and the nature of the information that you have gathered. Because from the time it will be evaluated and or processed and analyzed and categorized as top secret, secret, confidential, and restricted, and this is the very time to understand and of course to know the effective use of its intelligence value. Next, we have usefulness and selection. First, we have the usefulness. Intelligence is useless if it remains in the minds or in the files of its collectors or its producers. The story must be told and it must be told well. The story must be convincing, and to be convincing, it must not only be plausible or factual, but its significance must be shown. Meaning to say, intelligence is useless if it remains in the minds. It should be disclosed or should be communicated to the decision maker, for it will be used sooner or later in your operation, because it needs to be evaluated and processed so that later on the decision maker would able to decide and interpret the data of its possible intelligence value. So must be convincing, and to be convincing, it must not only be plausible or factual, but its significance must be shown. Meaning to say, yes, the data that you've gathered is plausible and or factual. Talagang ando na lahat. Okay? So, meaning to say, hindi ka duda-duda, talagang nag-i-exist yung crime or nag-i-exist yung event. But sabi dito, but its significance must be shown. Kinakailangan meron itong relation. Okay? It has a relation of what was happening. So, if the data has no connection of what is the current event na nangyayari sa paligid, it has no value. Okay? But if it has a significance of what is going on and happening in the community in a particular environment, it must be given so that it would be useful. Automatically, it will be communicated to the decision maker. Next, selection. Intelligence should be essential and pertinent to the purpose at hand. Meaning to say, in the selection, it involves plowing through a maze of information, considering innumerable number of means or of picking the most promising of the multitude of leads. In the selection process, the decision maker tries to separate the grain from the shaft. Meaning to say, they are going to separate the important and not important, the useful and not useful, the truth and the false information that being gathered. Because unang-una, it composed of bulk of information, it composed of numerous information, but it needs to be selected, underwent selection process by the decision maker, so that it would be useful, very essential, and pertinent to the operation to be conducted. Next, we have timeliness and security as the last one. Timeliness. As what I've discussed a while ago, intelligence must be communicated to the decision maker at the appropriate time to permit its most effective use. Ibig sabihin, intelligence must be time-bounded. Appropriate time. If you have all the data now, give it right away to the decision maker, so that the decision maker would be able to analyze or even evaluate and interpret the data that you have gathered. This is one of the most important and most obvious, for intelligence that is too soon or too late are equally useless. Meaning to say, if the intelligence be given too soon or too early, it's become totally useless, because unang-una, cannot be used, okay, for the operation to be conducted, because it is too premature to use the data, to use the intelligence for the operation, where in fact could be changed along the way of what will happen. And of course, if it will be given too late, they're still useless. Kasi tapos na yung operation, tapos na dapat yung gagawin, pero ngayon lang lumabas yung intelligence. So timeliness is one principle that complements all the others. So ibig sabihin, if the work of the agent, if the agent is too time-bounded, everything will follow. Kasi nagfa-follow na, meron din tinatawag na chain reaction. Meaning to say, they already follow through whenever the agent is time-bounded to its work. The last one, security. Okay, security is achieved by the measures which intelligence takes to protect and preserve the integrity of its activities. So, meaning to say, as much as possible, the intelligence should not be disclosed to the unauthorized individual. As much as possible, it should not be publicized. As much as possible, it must be contained to the authorized individual and must be kept safely, not to be reachable on those unauthorized individual. If intelligence has no security, it might be as well being run like a newspaper to which it is similar. So, ibig sabihin dito, if intelligence has no security, it seems like a newspaper na everybody could access, everybody could read, everybody would know what is happening, and everybody would be updated of the data that you have gathered, which supposedly they are not subject to be disclosed with the information you have, or I mean with the intelligence that you have.
Okay, tapos na tayo sa part 3-A of this scope, which is the intelligence and its perspective. So, hopefully that you've learned a lot or even a bit of our discussion today. And for next topic, still on the intelligence and its perspective, but this is for the part 3-B as our next topic soon. So, abangan nyo to sa next presentation natin kasi we will be going to tackle about the types of intelligence. Under kasi dito sa types of intelligence, we will be able to differentiate the types of intelligence to one another. Kasi under dito, meron tayong strategic intelligence, tactical intelligence, order of battle intelligence, police intelligence, military intelligence, national intelligence, and so on and so forth. So, very important, ano ba talaga yung tactical intelligence? Saan ba talaga ito gagamitin? Anong uri or type ng intelligence ang kinukuha pagdating sa tactical? Ano naman ang nature ng order of battle intelligence, di ba? So pag sinabi natin yung order of battle intelligence, it is a design or a manner in which an intelligence should be disposed, di ba? So yun yung mga bagay natin pag-uusapan for the next presentation, and hopefully that you will be able to wait for that. And of course, we will going to discuss the classification of intelligence. Okay. So we're going to tackle on that. We have the counterintelligence and as to its functions as well. But so evaluation guide is very important once information being gathered and the information is at hand of the decision maker, and it is the decision maker who will process it, evaluate, analyze, and of course with the help of the evaluation guide as to the information becomes E1 or to determine the source as E1, di ba? Or completely reliable confirmed by other sources. So meron tayong tinatawag na acronyms, the CPP, DIT, and the COFNOR, di ba? So yung mga bagay dapat nating pag-usapan sa susunod. And of course, that will result into interpretation to be interpreted by the decision maker. Whether the information process is a C1 or else C2 or whatever as being classified or interpreted by the decision maker. And the last one is intelligence cycle. Ito, yung intelligence cycle napakahalaga, napakataas na oras na to sa pagdidiscuss nito. Pero meron tayong separate presentation para lang sa intelligence cycle parang maunawaan natin ng maigi kung ano talaga ang kahalagahan at importansya ng intelligence cycle. Kailan mag-uumpisa at kailan matatapos yung intelligence cycle. Pag sinabi kasi nating cycle, ipaulit-ulit yung proseso eh. Pero meron talagang final disposition of the intelligence, di ba? So, kailan natin matatawag na information? Kailan natin matatawag na intelligence? Di ba? Meron bang mangyayaring intelligence operation kapag walang nangyaring kriminalidad? No, di ba? Yun yung mga bagay. Or kailan mangyayari yung intelligence cycle? Okay? Mangyayari ba ito kapag na-determine na merong krimen na nag-i-exist. So, yun yung mga bagay natin pag-uusapan sa next presentation. So, thank you for your time. Hopefully, you've learned a lot or a bit with our presentation today. So, have a great day.